Minister for Defence of Kenya address the Manama dialogue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Excellencies. May I start by thanking IISS and the Kingdom of Bahrain for hosting this very, very critical forum that has brought together, as you've heard, representatives from 5 continents. We have heard from the US, Secretary Austin was here with us. We heard from Europe. We had Sir Stephen Lovegrove here with us. And we also heard from Asia, from my 2 colleagues, defense ministers of Indonesia and Malaysia. Today, I'm very, very privileged to be here to add Africa's voice to this dialogue. This is my first time here, but I'm very, very pleased that when I arrived, a colleague of mine told me that the last time he was here, he was with my predecessor, who was in this dialogue in 2019. And he asked me, he thought Kenya's Minister for Defense was a woman. And I told him, no, I'm not a woman, but yes, she was a very able minister, and she represented us here, and I bring her greetings. She was with you, and I'm very, very happy that you still remember her. But today, as we come to talk about the dynamics, security dynamics in the Red Sea region, we are also looking at the Horn of Africa situation. As you're all aware of the fragility of the Horn of Africa region, whether we're talking about climate change, whether we're talking about terrorism, whether we're talking about the ravages of COVID-19, the Horn of Africa region has greatly been affected. And looking at what the leaders have discussed here, I listened to them yesterday, and we know that we might be separated by miles and miles of land, of sea and skies, but we really face very common threats. When you're talking about terrorism, this is also a threat facing Africa, in particular the Horn of Africa, whether you're talking of ISIS, talking of Al-Shabaab, and talking of other threats, Al-Qaeda, Africa is facing the same threats. In Somalia, the biggest challenge is Al-Shabaab. And from the discussions we've had here today and yesterday, we also draw from our lessons, particularly the sudden withdrawal in Afghanistan and the situation we are facing in Somalia with AMISOM's term coming to an end at the end of this year. We are looking at how we can have a conditioned transition in Somalia so that we avoid a situation where we can have Al-Shabaab resurging and overrunning us. So we will be discussing this with you today to see how that can be managed. Talking of the Horn of Africa, we know the situation developing in Ethiopia, and we are all working very, very closely with Ethiopia, together with the IGAD and AU, to see that the situation does not get out of control. Similarly, we've had threats in northern Mozambique, that is in South Africa, that has affected also Tanzania, as well as Uganda, with the AFD affiliates. You heard of the bomb blasts in Kampala. And terrorism is a real threat to Africa, just as it is to all the other regions of the world. Similarly, climate change and COVID-19 has hit us very, very hard. And these commonalities of our challenges dictates that we work together. And working together is not really a choice, it's an imperative of our time to see how we can overcome these challenges. When it comes to the issue of the increasing global competition in this region, it suffices to say that the Red Sea, and indeed the entire belt of the Gulf region, presents a very unique geographical makeup of a huge geostrategic importance to the Horn of Africa, the Sahel, Asia, Europe, and it is indeed a pivotal gateway in regional and global international trade. It is true to say that in recent years, there has been an upsurge in the interest of regional and extra-regional actors to establish military and naval bases along the Red Sea in pursuit of their interests, owing to the geostrategic output of this region on a number of interesting factors. As a result, we have seen significant proliferation of military bases, which has in turn led to militarization of the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa. The region has also been at the core of strategic calculus of the world, and regional military powers, as was evident during the Cold War, when superpowers projected their military dominance in the region. A similar scenario has currently evolved on a potentially larger and complex scale, a situation that could transform the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea into military fortresses and theaters for competition among several powers. This development calls for a thorough analysis of the situation with a view of establishing the implications, not just for Kenya, but the region, which will, without doubt, project enormous effect into the global sphere. This analysis should give us a window from which we could possibly formulate ways for strategic consumption of our common interests. Kenya has a relatively long coast, and this coastline runs all the way from Vanga to Kiunga. We are talking of over 536 kilometers along the Indian Ocean. And it is indeed true that it suffers, as it would benefit, implication of projection of security dynamics in the Red Sea together with the rest of the East African neighborhood. Kenya's strategic position within the Horn of Africa and its proximity to the web of terror networks has exposed it to terrorism, proliferation of small arms and light weapons, without forgetting the influx of refugees, among other challenges. The pertinent question is, are there traces of occurrence that link security dynamics in the Red Sea to the security challenges that is experienced in Kenya and the East African region today? Ladies and gentlemen, all this dynamic mix of insecurity, geopolitical challenges, with the implications of climate change on our livelihoods in the Red Sea region, can be considered to be determinants of regional fragility in which Kenya and its neighbors in the Horn of Africa operate. Kenya pursues a very dynamic policy shaped by a pragmatic approach to the prevailing international geopolitical environment. The foreign policy is principled, among others, on peaceful coexistence with its neighbors, respect for the equality, sovereignty, and territorial integrity of states, and respect for international norms, customs, and laws. Over the years, however, Kenya's foreign policy has undergone transition in response to emerging trends in international affairs, such as globalization, regional integration, and security threats. The dynamic global environment, with shifting interests among states, has led to both political and economic realignments, supported by the imperative to strengthening security capabilities. Kenya continues to reorient its foreign and defense policies and strategies to forge mutually beneficial alliances with traditional allies while constructively engaging the emerging powers. The economic transformation of the country through economic diplomacy has targeted to deepen economic cooperation and international trade. Kenya has therefore pursued broader cooperation to include non-traditional economic partners in various thematic areas, including agriculture, cooperatives, security, education, tourism, mining, transport, among others. In the face of the militarization of the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea, Kenya will continue to pursue its foreign and defense policies and its objectives with a view to protecting, promoting, and projecting its interests in the region and beyond, with respect for mutual development with their neighbors and partners. The Republic of Kenya has experienced a noticeable reduction of economic attractiveness of its infrastructure, particularly the port of Mombasa and Lapsset, as a result of the upgrading of port facilities and infrastructure, such as the new transport corridors that have come up with militarization. Further, it's expected that Kenya's role as a major player in the region is likely to be undermined by the presence of the major powers in the Horn of Africa. I wish to post, ladies and gentlemen, that it's not entirely lost to us that foreign military bases in the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea region may in fact also act as deterrents to invasions of a territory due to the fear of repercussions should the foreign powers decide to defend the host country. Their presence in the region could boost the fight through joint operations, funding, and training with host and regional countries. In addition, they are likely to help illegal immigration across the Indian Ocean and the Red Sea due to patrols by ships and air surveillance. It's noteworthy that Bab el Mandab used to be a notorious crossing point between Yemen and Somalia. This has since reduced significantly due to the presence of the EU, UAE, and Saudi Arabian naval forces in the Gulf. Distinguished Excellencies, dear delegates, one might therefore want to ask, what then could be the possible ways in which we could leverage the implications to achieve strategic gains for the common good? And on this regard, a 6-point agenda becomes apparent as I conclude. Sorry, I'm taking a bit long, but I think speaking for Africa, I might be given a little more time. These are the 6 points that I just wanted to highlight. 1, although the militarization poses some threats and challenges, Kenya is looking to proactively identify inherent opportunities to be exploited in advancement of our national interests. 2, Kenya is prepared to actively use regional security mechanisms, particularly under the IGAD, the AU, to forge common positions in addressing peace and security issues that may arise from militarization of the Horn of Africa and perhaps project benefit out of it. 3, Kenya is also at the forefront of leveraging the presence of major powers in the region to identify, exploit defense cooperation and collaboration opportunities in areas such as training, capacity building, information and intelligence sharing, counter-terrorism, and maritime security cooperation. 4, the need for Kenya to renew regional defense pacts with the countries in the region and strengthening regional RECs for conflict prevention, management, and resolution is of strategic importance to guarantee mutual defense support when necessary. The defense pacts could be pursued within regional frameworks such as the EAC and IGAD or bilaterally. Lastly, Kenya will be looking to expand its diplomatic footprints in the region. The establishment of defense liaison officers and subsequent defense attachés in the region is a priority. This presence would facilitate the implementation of meaningful partnerships, including economic aspects of militarization and the conclusion of defense cooperation arrangements. Further, Kenya will also be looking at enhancing its role in peacekeeping and enforcement, including redeploying forces in South Sudan. As I conclude, Excellencies, dear delegates, ladies and gentlemen, as nations seek to pursue, protect, and project their interests, the militarization of the Horn of Africa and the Red Sea will probably continue. As this trend persists, there will be an increase of actors, particularly considering that some host states have chosen the hosting of military and naval bases for economic purposes. This, therefore, is the main challenge that should preoccupy governments in the region and look at how to ensure that proliferation of military naval bases in the region is not detrimental to the regional peace and stability. More importantly, is how we could all mitigate against any negative implications of militarization and take advantage of the opportunities for the advancement of national interest. Further, we should all come up with ways of committing to address the threat of terrorism that's threatening peace and security in the Red Sea, as well as other places within the Horn of Africa, the Indian Ocean, all the way to Mozambique in South Africa, as I've said, as well as into the hinterland of the African continent. I thank you for your attention, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Minister, for that splendid analysis of Kenya's widening strategic environment, for noting the military buildup in the Red Sea, the proliferation of bases and facilities, and also for inviting us to examine more closely the links between the Red Sea and East African strategic theaters. Dr. Netweb.